Hello students. So we are going to discuss about cell biology. Why did I choose this chapter? Because cell, as we know, it is the basic unit of life. From the junior classes we have been learning that cell is the structural and functional unit of life. Now since we are in higher classes, so I am not going into the details of why it is structural and functional unit. So we will directly go into the portions which are included in our 10 plus 2 level. So cell can be of two types. Cell can be prokaryotic or it can be eukaryotic. Now why the name prokaryotic? Pro means primitive. Karyotic means, it comes from the word karyon, which means nucleus. That means primitive nucleus. So a cell which has got primitive nucleus. Now where do we find these kind of cells? We find these kind of cells in monerans. Who are the monerans? Bacteria. So any kind of bacteria, they are included under kingdom Monera. And all monerans, they have a prokaryotic cellular structure. Then comes eukaryotic cells. Now, who are the eukaryotes? Eukaryotes are those organisms who have eukaryotic cellular structure. Now, what is the basic difference between prokaryotic, eukaryotic? We have been learning from our junior classes that in prokaryotic cell, the nuclear membrane is missing. In a nucleus, the nuclear membrane, it is a limiting membrane. That is missing in a prokaryotic cell. In an eukaryotic cell, why is it called eukaryotic? Eu means advanced. Karyotic, as I said, it comes from the word karyon, which means nucleus. So eukaryotic cells means having an advanced nucleus. Why will it be advanced? Because the nucleus will be bound by a limiting membrane. This is the basic difference. What are the other differences? Another basic difference is in prokaryotes there are no structures which are bound by any kind of membrane. So, membrane-less structures are found in prokaryotic cells. But in eukaryotes, therein lies the difference. Membrane-bound structures, which are actually called cell organelles. Those cell organelles are membrane-bound in an eukaryotic cell. So two differences we have got between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. So on my screen you can see it's written overview of an eukaryotic cell, which means there is a brief idea, a basic idea. So what is written first? Generally, eukaryotic cells are larger in size than prokaryotic cells. And the outermost covering of an eukaryotic cell will always be a cell membrane. In case it is a plant cell, the outermost covering will be cell wall. So cell wall lies outside the cell membrane. It is an extra covering over the cell membrane, we know that. Now, the protoplasm of eukaryotic cell is also called hyaloplasm. What did I say? Hyaloplasm. That is the other name for protoplasm. Now this hyaloplasm, it will be limited by a membrane. So if I show you one picture, I think you will get an idea that, say this one. Over here you can see this is a plant cell that I am showing, okay, and there is a cell membrane which is enclosing the protoplasm, and outside the cell membrane this extra black covering that I am showing, that I am pointing to, this is the cell wall. Below cell wall there is cell membrane. Now coming to animal cell, see, there is no cell wall. So in an animal cell, the outermost covering is cell membrane. In a plant cell, the outermost covering is cell wall. So these are the typical structures. This is an animal cell and this is a plant cell. Okay. So now the hyaloplasm that I am talking about is this particular matrix which is present inside the cell. It is the living matter of the cell. And this hyaloplasm, it can be divided into, or it can be distinguished into two parts. What are the two parts? The two parts are sol, which will be closer to the center of the cell. Okay, so as we go inside the cell, the hyaloplasm will be known as sol. And as we go towards the periphery of the cell, you can see the cursor is moving. That is the periphery. We would call it gel. Now, sol is also known as endoplast. Endo means inside. So, inner side of the protoplasm, cytoplasmic matrix also you may say, is endoplast. And outer part of the cytoplasmic matrix is ectoplast. Together, endoplast, ectoplast, together they will be called hyaloplasm. I hope I am clear with this. Now, this gel part or the ectoplast part is a little bit firmer than the endoplast. Why? Because it is towards the periphery, so it needs to be firm, otherwise the shape of the cell will get distorted. A slight injury can cause rupture to the cell. So that is why ectoplast is firmer than endoplast. Now, within this cytoplasmic matrix, what do we find? So let us go back to that slide. So cytoplasmic matrix has two states, as I told you, sol and gel. Now in this cytoplasmic matrix, two types of substances are found: living and non-living. The living substances are called, as I have written over here, cell organelles. These are living. Living means each of these organelles, they have a specific function to perform. And the non-living parts of the cell are called cell inclusions, about which we will discuss later. Cell inclusions, sometimes they may be referred to as ergastic substances. Ergastic. Okay. Now, cell organelles are of these types, as I have written. Though the first one that I have written is nucleus. Nucleus. Why nucleus I have written at the top? Because it is the most important part of the cell. Often we compare it with brain. It is the brain of the cell because nucleus controls the metabolic machinery of the cell. And after nucleus, there are endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, lysosomes, ribosomes, mitochondria, plastids. So these are the various cell organelles normally found in an eukaryotic cell. Now, each and every part of the cell has a typical structure and associated with the structure typical function. So the first part of the cell that I was discussing was cell membrane. See, I have already written over here, limited by a cell membrane. So we should first discuss about the structure of cell membrane. So, now regarding structure of cell membrane, various scientists have been proposing various theories. Various theories are there. Okay. Now, there is one theory given by Daniel and Davison, okay, which is called the sandwich model. It is one of the most earliest theories. What does this sandwich model tell us? The name sandwich refers to three layers. Three layers. The idea of sandwich gives us, if you imagine a sandwich, it gives us an idea there will be three things. There will be one middle layer which will be sandwiched between two layers, one outer, one inner, or one upper and one lower. So sandwich model proposed by Danieli and Davison. What did they say? They said that cell membrane is a PLP structure. What does a PLP structure mean? Protein, lipid, protein. Which means lipid layer sandwiched between two protein layers. So this is all about the sandwich model. And it also said that the lipid molecules have two ends. One end is water loving, which is called hydrophilic, and the other end is hydrophobic. So this much idea this sandwich model gives us. But later, more research was done. So, few years later, Robertson, he introduced a model, and that is called unit membrane model. Basic structure remains same, that cell membrane is a trilamellar structure, trilamellar or trilaminar structure. Tri means three, lamina means layer. That means it has a three-layered structure. And the layers are the same. Two protein layers enclosing one lipid layer. But this unit membrane model, it said that the thickness of this cell membrane, total thickness, these are the additional information in the unit membrane model. The total thickness is 75 angstrom. Total thickness. Out of this 75 angstrom, the central lipid layer, the middle lipid layer, is 35 angstrom. And the two protein layers, each of them is 20 angstrom. So each protein layer 20 angstrom. There are two protein layers. So 20 plus 20, 40. And the middle lipid layer is how much? How much did I say? 35 angstrom. So if we sum them up, it comes to 75 angstrom. So this was proposed by Robertson. Okay? Next comes the most important model regarding structure of cell membrane, and that is fluid mosaic model, as the slide shows. The other name is Singer-Nicolson model, named after the two scientists who proposed this theory, this model. Now, this model is the most accepted one. The first one was sandwich model. The second one, unit membrane model. This is the third one and the most accepted one, fluid mosaic model. Why such a name, fluid mosaic model? It gives us an idea as if cell membrane has a fluid nature. Okay, and that is true. That is why the name, fluid mosaic model. So, cell membrane has a quasi-fluid nature. If you see the third point I have mentioned, and it's an important term, quasi-fluid nature of cell membrane. Why? Because within the cell membrane, movements are possible. How are the movements possible? The lipids, they can show some flip-flop transitional movements, and they also allow the proteins of the cell membrane to allow certain substances to come into the cell or go out of the cell. That means movement across the membrane is possible. And this is why the membrane is called quasi-fluid membrane. Basic structure remains same. PLP, protein, lipid, protein. See the first point, it's written phospholipid bilayer. What is a phospholipid? A phospholipid is a molecule which has got a lipid part. Lipid means fat. Fat part. Attached to the fat part is a phosphate group. Phosphate means phosphoric acid. So attached to the lipid part will be a phosphoric acid part. And bilayer. Now why bilayer? Because there are two phospholipid layers. I'll show you a picture. There are two phospholipid layers. So that is why the name bilayer. Amphipathic. Why amphipathic? Amphi, the word amphi means both or two. Amphi means two. Why two? Why amphipathic? Because these lipids have two ends. If I show you the picture, it will be clearer to you. So this is basically the picture of fluid mosaic model. See, these are the phospholipid molecules. They have two parts. This is the tail part, this elongated part is the tail, and this circular part is the head. Okay? Now, the head part is water loving. That means it is hydrophilic. And the tail part is water repelling. So we can call it hydrophobic. So since there are two parts, hydrophilic and hydrophobic, so we call this phospholipid amphipathic. And the hydrophilic part, that means the head part, it will be oriented towards aqueous phase of the cell. Suppose a general question, if I ask you, just give it a try. Try yourself. Outside the membrane is the limiting part, limiting structure. Outside the membrane, what should be present? What should be present outside the cell? You think? If you have thought correctly, the answer should be extracellular fluid, because in between two cells there cannot be a vacuum. There should be some kind of fluid. So in between two cells, the fluid that is present is extracellular. extra means outside the cell. So this hydrophilic head, it is oriented towards the extracellular fluid. Extracellular fluid means aqueous, towards the aqueous phase, towards the fluid phase, and towards the interior of the membrane, the hydrophobic part is there. So that is why we can say that these lipids are amphipathic in nature. A very important point you must remember. Now, these lipids, they allow certain movements. What kind of movements? Suppose a fat soluble substance wants to enter the cell. It can enter by passing through this lipid bilayer. It is possible. Okay, so that is why we say that the membrane has a fluid nature, because it allows substances to enter. It permits substances to enter. Okay, but lipid bilayer will allow only the lipid soluble substances to enter. What about the water soluble or hydrophilic substances? Now for them, for the hydrophilic ones, some proteins are found in the membrane. So now we are going towards the protein part. So there are, if we study the structure of a cell membrane, there are two kinds of proteins. Structurally, there can be two kinds of proteins. Extrinsic proteins. Extrinsic means outside. That means oriented towards the outer part of cell membrane. Extrinsic proteins and intrinsic proteins. Intrinsic means inside. So suppose this one. This protein, it is spanning the entire membrane. It is spanning the membrane. It is going deeper into the structure. So this is an intrinsic protein. Suppose this one, this is an extrinsic protein. It is outside the phospholipid bilayer. So those proteins which penetrate the phospholipid bilayer, they are called intrinsic proteins. Those proteins which are outside the lipid bilayer, they are extrinsic proteins. Now the extrinsic proteins are loosely bound to the cell membrane. The forces which keep them together along with the lipid molecules are very weak. Electrostatic forces. Electrostatic forces are there which keep them together with the lipids. But so as a result, what happens? Somehow if some kind of mechanical pressure is exerted on the membrane, the extrinsic proteins can be easily taken out because they are loosely bound. So they can be easily detached. And on their detachment, the structure of cell membrane will not be distorted. It can be maintained. But coming to intrinsic proteins. Intrinsic proteins, actually they constitute about 70% of total proteins found in the membrane. Please remember, 70% of total proteins found in the membrane is intrinsic protein. And these intrinsic protein, they are tightly held by hydrophobic or hydrophilic interactions. So if somehow intrinsic proteins are being tried to taken out, that will cause disruption in the structure, in the framework of cell membrane. Okay, that will cause breakdown of the cell membrane. So this is all about the structural part. Now these proteins, why are they present? They must be having some purpose. So extrinsic proteins, intrinsic proteins, functionally how do they help the cell? So extrinsic proteins mainly, they form the backbone of the cell. They form the structure of the cell. So they are the structural proteins. Not only that, they can also act as receptors. Receptor. What is a receptor? A receptor is a substance which receives something. What will it receive? It can receive some water loving, that means hydrophilic molecule. It can receive a hormone. A hormone can come and sit on the extrinsic protein. So it acts as receptors. It can receive a metabolite, suppose glucose, suppose sodium ion or potassium ion or calcium ion. These are metabolites. So they can act as receptors. And what about these intrinsic proteins? These are also called channel proteins or transmembrane proteins, as if they form channels. Channels for what? Channels for allowing certain hydrophilic substances, water-loving substances, to pass through them. Because hydrophilic substances will not be able to pass through the lipid bilayer. They need these proteins so that they can pass. So channel proteins, they allow hydrophilic substances, so they allow certain selective substances, and that is why cell membrane is called selectively permeable membrane. Okay, what else do these proteins can do? They can act as glycoproteins. What is a glycoprotein? Glyco, if I go back to that slide, glycoproteins. Structural I have discussed, transmembrane I have discussed. Okay, now coming to carrier proteins. Carrier means one who carries. So suppose a hydrophilic substance wants to get into the cell. What can it do? It will bind to the intrinsic protein. Intrinsic protein will carry the substance from one side of the cell of the membrane to the other part of the membrane. So the metabolite will bind to the carrier protein. Carrier metabolite will club together, will form a complex, and the carrier will help the metabolite to go to the other part of the membrane. This is one function. And then it's written cell recognition. Now what is cell recognition? Certain cells have a tendency to flock together. Okay, certain cells have a tendency to flock together, to be in a group of their own type. How is that possible? How can one cell recognize another cell of the same type? It is possible only when on the surface of the cells there are certain proteins. And those are glycoproteins. Glyco means carbohydrate and protein means you know. So glycoproteins are carbohydrates associated with proteins. They help in cell recognition, help one cell to identify a similar kind of a cell so that they can form a group. And these are very useful in generating immune responses, a very important part of immunology. In blood groups also, blood grouping also, these are very important. Okay, RBCs having a particular type of antigen on its surface, on its membrane, will recognize the corresponding antibody in the plasma. How is it possible? Because of these glycoproteins. So, since fluid mosaic model could provide so many information about the structure, about the function of cell membrane, so this one was the most accepted model. And we should remember that all the membranes which cover any kind of structure in a cell, suppose a mitochondrial membrane, suppose a nuclear membrane, suppose a say membrane which covers endoplasmic reticulum, all these membranes have same structure, fluid mosaic model. It is applicable for all, and that is why collectively all these membranes are called biomembranes. Cell membrane and the membranes which enclose cellular organelles, they are together called biomembranes. Why bio? Because they have functions. Functions I already discussed now. Okay, so this is all for today. In the next video, we will be discussing about different modifications of cell membrane. There are different structural modifications and how movement is possible in cell membrane, across the cell membrane. Which kind of movements are possible? Okay, thank you everyone. See you in the next video.